All right, good to go?
Yep.
All right, I've got 6:30. I hereby call the meeting of the City of Riverside Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Madam Zoning Administrator, can you call the roll, please?
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
Here.
Mr. Cron,
Here.
Mr. Snyder,
Here.
Mr. Timbrook.
Here. So then we're going to go right into this being the first meeting of the new year, our election of chair and election of vice chair. Do I have any nominations for election of chair?
I nominate Reese Timbrook.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, she's doing a great job.
All those in favor of nominating Reese Timbrook as chair?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right. I am the chair. How about that? All right, moving on to the election of the vice chair. Do I have a nomination for the role of vice chair?
I nominate Tim Cron.
Second. All those in favor of nominating Tim Cron as vice chair?
Aye.
Aye.
Sure, why not?
All those opposed? All right, Mr. Cron,
Mm-hmm.
vice chair.
Why break up a great team?
Why break up a great team indeed? Or whatever. Okay. Okay, let's move on to, can I get a motion to approve this meeting's agenda?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda approved. Okay, we have the set of minutes from what was this, November? From the November 28th meeting. Are there any comments or corrections?
No.
All right, hearing none, the minutes stand approved as written. So,
There you go. Now I think you should be.
Hello?
Let's double check.
so we hope.
All right, go ahead and try and talk into it.
All right. Hello?
Yeah, I think that's working now.
Okay.
All right, I'll give
All
you
right.
that back. Just checking. Can you hear us all out there? Not up there.
Okay. All right, give us one moment.
New AV stuff. Hey, Dalma, how you doing? Yeah, you can hear yourself on here. Yeah, see, I'm watching the stream too. I'm going at the same time.
I can put that up there.
Now try.
This is the aerial map of the site.
Check, check.
There we go.
There we go.
All right.
Okay.
We're good to go.
All right, let's rock and roll.
Sorry about
All right.
that.
No, thank you.
Thanks.
Growing
Perfect.
pains.
All right, it is outlined in blue. You can see that there's 2 front yards. According to our code, anything that is between the side of the house and the street is considered a front yard. This is the fence that we are discussing today during this case. Whoa, 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 whoa. How do I look to enter out of presentation
Oh,
mode?
back up at the top, sorry. Yep, there you go.
Yep.
Now you should be able to arrow over. Yep.
Okay, there we go. This is the site plan that was submitted to the city. The fence is behind the house. There was a fence there before, it was removed. The property owner received a citation, came in and submitted a fence permit, and that is when we let the property owner know that a variance was required and that they had to come before this board. This is the front of the subject site. This is the properties across Leafback Place. This is the property that is to the west on that cul-de-sac that you saw. And this is to the north, across from Cut Leaf, that same cul-de-sac. This is the variance area, so we're looking at the other front yard of the subject site, and you can see the fence here, the new one. This is another view of the fence, and this is looking from Leafback. Now we're getting to the waiver. Under our code in the front yard, you have to have a fence that is 50% transparent. As you can see, this is a solid fence, and so that is why this is coming before you. Also, under the new code, you can hear both of those cases at the same time for this board to make that decision. So again, seeing solid board fence in the front. So staff does find that this variance request is adequately justified. There are other fences in this neighborhood that of a similar nature of this height, so this will not affect the character of the neighborhood. Also looking that at the other property, it is not in any line of sights to affect the neighbor getting out of their driveway. It is not a substantial variance, and the spirit and intent of the zoning code is observed with the fence height. This is the criteria for granting a variance. I know you are all familiar with this. You've seen it many times as we've gone through this process, but I'd like to remind you. And these are the other things that you should consider when thinking of the variance. And the applicant answered all these questions when they were filling out their applications that were included in your packet. Now regarding the waiver, there are other means for getting what the applicant needs, and so we do not recommend granting the waiver. This is not, there are strict application of the regulation would not deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land, and like I said, there are alternatives, fence designs that would be more compliant with the code. So these are your required actions. Do you approve the variance based on the standards that you have in our code, and using those standards, approve with conditions or deny the request? If you need more time, you can always continue to a date certain, and that is the same options you have with the waiver. Are there any questions for me?
Corner lots every time. This
I know you
one.
see a lot of
It's
corner
almost like
lots.
you're being penalized.
Yeah,
for the corner lot.
yeah, this one on the cul-de-sac. I do have a question. So
Yes.
just on the difference with the staff recommendations on the variance and the
Mhm.
waiver, the variance, well, I suppose it would depend on the way the board looks at it, I guess, as I
Yeah.
think this through for
And the
myself.
standards for the
It-
two are different.
Are different, right,
Yeah.
right. I guess the applying the logic this board has in the past to somewhat similar cases on corner lots and on fences in what is a front yard by law, but essentially functions as a backyard. I'm not sure how the city comes up with the approval of the variance for the fence height, but is recommending denial of then the waiver when we basically are treating it like a backyard.
So, like I said, with my recommendation for the height, it's not blocking any, because that is why we have those standards for height.
Mhm.
We want to make sure that that height is not blocking any lines of sight, that people can see around the fence in the front, and that's why we have those standards. Now, for the waiver, knowing this, because I listen to Planning Commission go through this process. They made those recommendations to council. They wanted that transparency because that's the look that they wanted for the city in those sections of
Yeah.
the yards.
Okay, so you
Yeah,
said the
so there's
line-
other fence types that could be more
allowed,
opaque
sure.
or more transparent. let's
So
say.
line of sight from front yard,
And those types of fences they want are not permitted. Those solid board are not permitted in the front yard, which goes in line with that
For
line
the-
of sight.
right, but the sign of life for front yard, you said it was fine for the height,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't make any sense if
So
if we're saying both are front yards, then the line of sight doesn't work for the others, for the other one either, as well, if you're saying both are front yards. So you can't have a line of, are we saying the front yard is the front door, and we're good because 6 feet is good because that's the front yard?
I'm saying that the driver on the driveway can still see around.
Or over.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any line of sight issues.
Yeah.
Well, there wouldn't be a line of sight, I mean, it all depends on the front yards issue too, though,
It
at the same
does.
time.
Is it maybe, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Is it maybe fair to say that, from your perspective as staff, that the variance, which is regarding the height,
Yes.
there's not an obstacle in this case necessarily with being able to see over the fence as it's built at present. So a variance there makes sense. But that's not necessarily the same thing as being able to see through. The
Yeah.
code currently requires the ability to see through. That's what the planning commission
Yes.
has talked about with requiring this 50% opacity or,
Right.
So the height, it would be, in our view,
Mhm.
if I'm
Yeah.
stating things correctly, it would be okay to go ahead and have a variance on the height, because in this particular case, being able to see, no problem, being able to see over this doesn't present any challenges. It's the throughness where the recommendation to deny comes into play, because the current standard is to have that 50% transparency. That's what the planning commission's been after and what our code currently requires, which is why you see the deny recommendation there. Because we see other fences in this neighborhood that
Right across the street.
that are 50% transparent.
It's
no,
not
no.
transparent.
No, it's solid.
All right,
It's
that are
solid.
solid, okay, gotcha.
In a backyard. I think that's part of the difference, right? Because there's other fences around that are solid.
No, it's the cul-de-sac, you can,
Right there.
this backyard with the blue house is exactly in the same situation as the house that we're looking at.
Yeah.
So it's the corner across from the
It's the
cul-de-sac.
corner
That's the corner on the
across.
other side, yeah.
Okay.
And if we're talking about height and mirroring, it's the same to me.
Yeah. Okay, I think I understand enough from the city on the perspective, and I think we should move into the
Okay.
public portion. Anything, and unless there's another question of another vein for the city. All right, seeing none. Okay, so let me find. Okay, so we're now going to, at 6:43, open the public portion. I have is this the right one? Leaf back, yeah. I have an application, or a speaker registration form for Jason Rosenbaum. Would you like to approach the podium? I believe we have an oath up there. If you'd please recite that and then try as best you can to speak into the microphone.
I, Jason Rosenbaum, at 4161 Leafback Place, affirm that the testimony I'm about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals is correct to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. And you're the applicant, yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, would you like to tell us what's going on?
It's, like you just discussed, the house across the street from mine is exactly the same. And in fact, when they were having their fence put up, I reached out to that person that was putting the fence installed, and I said, could you give me a quote on my fence? Because I had a fence almost exactly like that, but it had been up there for 15, 20 years. It had been degraded through weathering and possible termites or something, but it was, pieces of it were falling apart. So I literally asked the gentleman to give me a quote for exact same fence, because I liked how it looked. I want to have uniformity in the neighborhood. He gave me the quote, he came out, I removed the old fence myself to try to save a little bit of money, but it was put in the exact same spot as the other fence, if it was just the exact same height.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? So we talked about the kind of the two things that we're going to look at here. There's the variance for the height, right, and then the waiver for the opacity, right, the ability to see through that fence, and those are the two pieces. Do you have anything to add specifically on either the waiver for the height difference or something we should consider for the opacity and being able to see through it?
Seeing through a fence doesn't seem logical, you know?
So you're saying you would
That's-
probably consider that then fencing in your backyard, yes?
Yeah, it's a privacy fence, so it's, I mean, it was just exactly the same kind of fence that I had before there, and so I would want to have the same uniformity as I had before.
Can you talk about the use of the property that you would or would not have if you had to have at least 50%, see-through on that fence?
50%, well, I have animals, I have pets, so they might escape if there's a 50%, because if you're talking about, because they're small dogs, so that's why, the reason why I got the fence replaced, because there's holes I had to put, bricks and other things in the path, because they like to, oh, there's little openings, so
Yeah.
they go out, and so if I had 50% opening in between the boards and stuff, I'd have fear that they might escape or something happened bad to them.
Okay. Anything else for the applicant?
There's a question here on number 6, whether the property, is the fence approximately, are we questioning the applicant can move the fence approximately 10 feet back to align the facade with the house? Is that
That's,
an issue?
that's regarding the variance.
Okay.
So all that really is saying is, I think that's a little, I don't want to say, well, it's a little bit moot in the sense that if one of the remedies on the variance, which again is that height thing, that the applicant could do is, if the variance were not granted, in order to come into compliance, they could move the fence back. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
But again, staff don't have an objection to the variance,
Okay.
so,
So I think we're good.
yeah.
On that
We're
one.
good on the variance.
Yeah.
It's the transparency that's the sticking point.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it sort of applies, because it sort of applies since it's being in the front yard,
the 10 feet.
yeah. But that's.
Aligning with the
yeah,
facade, right?
yeah.
Because if
Mhm.
this was just a straight-up backyard, then they could
Yeah.
have it as long as it lined up with the facade.
Yeah,
Well, that's, okay.
yeah.
So we do want that.
That's up to,
Okay.
yeah.
So the fence
If he can, if that's
is
something that
bumped
you guys
out from that,
Mhm.
come to.
away
whether-
from the house.
Yeah, when you're looking like from leaf back straight down the court,
Yeah.
that's where it comes out 10 feet into the front yard,
Okay.
one
I
of the
mean-
2 front yards.
And you're, I mean, we're okay?
Well, we'll deliberate that later,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
The city still recommended approval, so I mean,
I-
that's
you know-
that's a good sign.
It's mirroring what's across the street. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't look out of sorts or, it looks,
It's in character with the.
it is in character with the neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir, anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that's the only form I think I had for this case. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in favor of the variance and waiver? Is there, oh, please approach the podium. And you give us your name, and then there should be an oath up there as well, please.
Scott Kreckman, I'm actually president of the board for the HOA that he is part of.
Okay.
So, hi, Scott Kreckman. Address is 4036 Cozy Croft. Affirm that the testimony I'm about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals is correct to the best of my knowledge. So I previously did respond to Nia Holt about the HOA regulations for fencing in the front yard.
Mhm.
We discussed this at our board meeting
Yeah.
beforehand to make sure I got all my stuff in line before I came in here. We're fine with it.
Okay.
Everything is not front lawn, front yard based on how we see it.
Okay.
So as far as we're concerned, we're all for all the variances to let him continue with what he's got.
Okay, both the variance for the fence height.
Height.
And then the waiver for the opacity.
Yeah, having multiple animals myself that are smaller, yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. All right, any questions for, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else who'd like to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody else here who'd like to speak in opposition to the application? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public portion on this at 6:50 PM. All right, what do we think? Let's start with talking about the waiver. So we've got the waiver for the increase by 2 feet. Height, I don't think we had any issues with this.
You're talking about the variance.
Or variance, yes, I'm sorry, for the 2-foot increase in the height for the front yard. Any thoughts beyond, I think, what we've kind of already talked about or talked around?
Nope, I think
No,
it's good.
I think that's
Okay,
right.
Okay. Okay, pretty easy. Regarding case number BZA 23-0012, I move that we approve the application based on the staff report, evidence, and testimony, which demonstrate the applicant has met numerous standards, including 2, 3, 7, maybe even others, but certainly 2, 3, and 7. Do I have a second?
Second.
He's
Just pick
learning
one.
to be-
Pick a Tim.
He's the vice. Give him that.
Pick a 10.
All right, Madam Secretary, Madam Zoning Administrator, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Timbrook,
Yes.
Mr. Cron,
Yes.
Mrs. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Snyder.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, let's move into then discussion now on the waiver portion. So remember, and if you have your packets on one of the third or fourth pages, the criteria that we consider is a little bit different than what we normally look at for the variances that we normally see.
Since line of sight for safety isn't an issue, I think it's a moot point. I think we should approve it.
So do you have concerns about what the city's plan is? And this is really the same point that I think Josh brought, that the city has as far as having a consistent, front yard, a consistent vision for the neighborhoods.
We've got so many different neighborhoods in this city, you're never going to achieve that.
Yeah.
Because they all have different characters and different types of things in those neighborhoods.
Well, you're never going to achieve that if you never enforce the code. That's
Well,
for certain.
But at the same time, this is in character with the neighborhood. We've got homes all along there that have the same thing.
Mhm.
I think it's an interesting thing that the city's more interested in people's yards and what kind of fence they have. I understand the need for standards and all that. but
Well, our job is to apply the code.
Yeah.
So we're
but
doing
this
our
is-
job.
I think
I mean,
this is a stretch to me. And it's just personal opinion. I think it's a stretch, and I think we got better things to focus on. If someone has a solid wood fence, what do we care? What if they construct it and move it back? Okay, it's costing that person more money to do it, and it's not affecting anything. It's not affecting safety, it's not affecting the character of the neighborhood. Chairman of the HOA says they are good with it.
Mhm.
So why not go ahead and grant the variance and move on?
Having
Oh, I'm
Forest
sorry,
Ridge
waiver,
yeah. Having
waiver.
Forest Ridge here, that I think
I
helps.
live in the neighborhood.
Yeah. I'm familiar with the neighborhood.
So I applaud anyone who's trying to improve the neighborhood, and I can understand enforcement and codes and stuff, but I don't think this is, I do not think this is an egregious violation of the code.
Okay, I don't want to draw this out too much further, but I do want to kind of step through these standards for approval. Not saying I agree nor disagree, just want to vector, I think, what you're talking about towards the criteria that we have to apply to whether we grant this waiver. So we have whether the waiver is going to have an adverse effect on adjacent property owners. Personal opinion, not in the slightest. Right across the cul-de-sac is the exact same fence. The HOA president is here telling us that that's not an issue in their application of their rules. I think we do raise the question when we get to the next point, when we talk about the city's, land use plan, and the regulations that they have to have, some uniformity to, I don't know, what gets put up, what gets built.
I understand that, but you're not going to have that in any, because our neighborhoods are so different.
Mhm.
So, I think this is just such a slight thing. We should just approve and move on. I'm not going to say anymore.
Understand. Moving on, then, the regulation will cause practical difficulty or strict application of the provisions of the regulations would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land. We often apply the reasonable use of the land to, a lot of things. I mean, he could have no fence and then have no dogs, or, I mean, that's technically an option.
Or have
That's not a good
beat-up
option, though.
fence with bricks on it.
That then the dog get through over whatever, what if his dogs need a swimming pool or something? I don't know. I guess I don't put a lot of weight into that one. Whether the proposed design, site arrangement, or anticipated benefits proposed development justify a deviation from the standards found herein? No. I mean, right across the street is the other fence. That's exactly the same.
The only difference is that across the street, it is aligned with the house.
Yeah, it's aligned with the facade of the house, which I think makes absolutely no measurable difference, in my opinion, of in
Not
what we're talking
comparing,
about.
Well-
not comparing one to the other because
No.
the city's okay with it jaunted out on this one.
Yes.
They're okay with it coming out a couple feet.
Yeah, I mean,
10
if you could see 50% through the fence that's on the court side right now, we wouldn't have the waiver as a part of this. They would just be seeking the variance. And,
Yes.
I mean, they'd be at home by now. Whether the applicant has incorporated other design measures that exceed minimum requirements, no. They haven't compensated for noncompliance with requirements to be waived. Net beneficial effect, no. Okay, so talking through all that, I think we've heard
You know
where
how I
you
feel.
stand on that,
Oh, yeah.
but I haven't heard, I guess, from y'all on the ends here. Where you
None
feel
of us
where you
like
stand.
corner lots.
No, I actually love.
Oh, we like corner lots.
I actually
It's just the
love
code
corner
is
lots.
kinda messed up.
The code, and the reason there is a Board of Zoning Appeals, right, is for the odd lots that don't fit in things like what's written in the code, what you draw up to cover an entire city, a uniform plan that's supposed to cover that entire city, all the different neighborhoods like you talked about. That's why you have to have an appeals board. Otherwise, we would also, I guess, be at home right now. Well, you might be at a basketball game.
I could
Nah.
be at a basketball game.
But that's why we're here.
Right.
You may be sensing where I'm leaning on this. I don't know why we would not grant the waiver along with the variance for the fence height. Not with all of the testimony, not with with no adverse effect on the property owners, or frankly, I think the principles. What's interesting is when you talk about the principles underlying and within the city's plan being different from, some of the strict application. That's exactly what the code is too. The code is there to try to make sure, the city's, safe and presentable and all that kind of stuff. And yet still we grant, variances all the time for all kinds of stuff.
Spirit and intent.
Spirit and intent.
Mm-hmm.
Corner lots aren't cookie cutter like the rest of the neighborhoods, so you have to.
Neither are
apply-
cul-de-sacs. I mean, just.
Neither are
separate.
cul-de-sacs.
Yeah,
So there's going to be a side yard that's considered as a front yard.
yeah, I agree. Do I have a motion?
I would consider it because
Oh.
they replaced the privacy fence in the same exact location. So it was pre-existing, they just took it down and replaced it.
Removed it, replaced it, yes.
Removed it, replaced it. So, in that case, I'm for it.
I move we approve the waiver.
A second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, that wraps up this case. On to the next one. Okay, the next case is BZA case 23-13 at 5010 Linden. Would the city like to brief us on what's going on here?
Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience. This is a case that has several variants associated with it. These are variances from the dimensional standards in our zoning code for the R2 zoning district. The applicant is proposing to split the lot, and the resulting lots will not meet all the dimensional standards, and so they are coming before you to request several variances. As you can see, the variances are for lot width, the side setback for one of the properties, and the maximum lot coverage for both of them. This is how the lot looks right now, outlined in blue. And the proposed lot split is between the two structures. There is a residential-like structure on the lot right now and a more commercial structure. And like I said, this is currently zoned R2 residential right now. So this is the plat, the lot split document that we received that shows what they are proposing to split. The requirement is, it's not showing all the width requirements here for lot track 1. The side setback for track 1 is supposed to be 10 feet. It's very narrow here, only at 7. So that's the things that you're going to consider tonight. This is the front of the subject site, and you can see both structures in this image. This is across the street, right across from the ramp to the interstate. This is the Union Hall right next door. There's a residential property to the west of this subject site. And this is variance 1 dealing with the lot width for the track that is going to have the house only. Now, this is the area that we're considering right back here for the side yard setback. Another image of that and showing that a little clearer for you.
Nice.
Now we're dealing with lot coverage. There's a maximum of 50% required, and there's a lot of pavement for impervious surface on these two lots, and that is not meeting with that maximum requirement. So now you're seeing some of that pavement coverage. So these are staff findings. We find that for variance 1, the minimum lot coverage is adequately justified and meets the standards of approval. They're only asking for the minimum needed to split the lot, and the spirit and intent behind the code is observed. We did see some other lots that were similar in size, not too much of a variance for this, so we do recommend approval for this. For the second variance, when we're talking about the side yard setback for track 1, again, this will not alter the character of the neighborhood, and the spirit and intent of the zoning code is observed. There will still be enough room to maintain the property. For example, given the setback that will still be there. And finally, variance 3, the maximum lot coverage will not alter the essential character. You saw there is a large parking lot behind there, so
Yep.
there won't be much change there. And the zoning code intent will be still observed there. They won't change or increase the amount of coverage by doing this lot split or any runoff, because that's what it's for. That maximum coverage requirement is for stormwater management. So again, reminding you of the criteria for the variance. And these are your required actions. Approve with conditions, deny, or if you need more time, continue to the next meeting. Are there any questions?
Nope.
All right. That's all I have.
No? Okay. At 7:03, open up to the public portion. I've got a speaker registration form for David Massari. Should have the oath up there, if you'll please.
I, David Masseri, 5712 Woodbridge, affirm that the testimony I'm about to give before the Board of Zoning Appeals is correct and to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add?
No, we're just trying to get this consistent. We have a residential property and a light commercial property, and we have a tenant in the home that would like to purchase it.
Could you pull your microphone up? Sorry.
sorry.
Just
Okay.
make sure it captures.
We have a
you.
tenant in the home that would like to purchase it and purchase the home, and so we're trying to get a lot split so we can do so.
Okay.
Kind of give a little more consistency. There's commercial on the other side, there's residential on the side where the home is. So,
Any questions for the applicant?
No?
Okay, thank you.
Ready for questions? Nothing?
Nothing.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here who'd like to speak in favor of the application? Is there anybody else here who'd like to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, let's close the public portion here at 7:05. All right, what do we think? This one could not be simpler.
Yep.
I think it's very easy.
One of the easiest ones I've ever seen. Do we need to do all three separately? Nah. Okay, all right. Regarding variance, what's the first one for? Regarding the first variance here in case BZA 23 double lot 13 for the minimum lot width of tract 1, I move that we approve based on the staff report evidence testimony heard today. I believe the applicant has met standards, primarily standard 2 because this is not substantial.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I move regarding case BZA 23 double lot 13, the second variance for the side yard tract, the reduction from 10 feet to 7 feet. I move that we approve based on the staff report evidence testimony heard today, which demonstrated the applicant has met standard 2. Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's approved. And regarding case BZA 23 double lot 13 at 5010 Linden, regarding the max lot coverage requirement on tracts 1 and 2, I move that we approve the application based on the staff report evidence testimony heard today, which demonstrated the applicant has met standard 2. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, that is both cases. Thank you. All right. Next up on our agenda is zoning administrator discussion topics.
You're at the bottom there, you go.
So this year, I'll make it a bit shorter than I did last year. But I do want to share some things with you from 2023. These are some things that the Community Development Department did. I know some of you were involved in it, such as our comprehensive plan update. We had 5 zoning changes. Some of those you have felt the effects of, like combining the waivers and variances. Some of the fence changes, allowing 4 feet in the front yard instead of 3. Those are some things that you guys are seeing the effects of. Some of those, we've had less variance cases because we've made those changes. So it's
Good work.
steps in the right direction. We also launched a citizen portal so we can take online permits, which has really helped some people, instead of making the trip down, easier access. We've had 2 intern students who did some great research for us. I'm not sure if some of you met them coming in, but yeah. Both of them want to get into public service because they're,
Oh, good.
yeah,
We
nerds
didn't
like
scare them off
us.
Because Naya did an excellent job.
So we're really proud of them, and we're going to
You ushered them out before I got here, though.
That was smart. Good move. Yeah.
And we've had staff present at conferences at all levels, so we're really getting Riverside's name out there. So really happy about that. And we got another council kicked off, one more board for this department to look after.
Yeah.
And try to fill.
Didn't you present at the December?
I did that too, yeah.
Yeah.
It was very
Yeah.
good. I was in it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we went in there.
Mhm. So that's something we're looking forward to. A complete zoning code update, that's in the future though. Future being like, hopefully later this year, hopefully. But we're making steps. This is what permits came in. And I really want to take a look at some of those numbers for your own board, 2021 and 2022, trying to figure out everything came in. But we really dropped that number
Yeah.
by making some of those code changes. So just want to point that out.
Yeah, I think the public appreciates that as much as they love to see our shining faces.
Yeah. And even combining the waivers, they don't have to go to planning commission and
Yes.
BZA, they can just come to one board.
Well, and that happened, well, is this the first case that's had the combined, I think it is.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, because every other one, it's been the separate.
Yeah.
And we always get into that weird question of, okay, well, planning commission now has to consider this
Mhm.
waiver after you've talked to
Yep.
us. So, yeah.
So steps forward. And this is a snapshot of what your caseload looked like last year. You approved 7, denied 2, we had some withdrawal, and the 2 pending are the ones that you heard tonight. So, yeah, and only 1 appeal case. So,
Thank goodness.
Right?
yeah.
Those are the hardest. Those are by far the hardest.
And I think I won't say lessen those, but it's really about having conversations with our residents and business owners, helping them understand the code, improving the code so that the appeals are not as numerous. And we've also updated the appeal application so it reflects the code, so they have to really justify why they're appealing.
Actually citing the code and what they're
Right.
appealing, not
Yes.
just on feel. Yeah.
Yes.
That helps a lot. And I think they appreciate that a lot because they know what
Mhm.
they're actually.
And so I think that's reflected in that
Yeah.
number from last year.
Nice.
Sweet.
Yeah. And one thing we're also looking into, I know the training has been up and down, so we're trying to find a way that we can have a program that is an online option. You can log in when you want to, and it's just a set course. You can get a little certificate at the end, and you're just done.
That's a
So-
great idea.
Yeah.
That is good.
So we're looking into that, and I'll have more as I learn more about that, what the
Cool.
possibility is. So that's all I have.
And I'll just jump in here real briefly, too. I do want to thank Naya and her team for all the work that they've done supporting this board, as well as the Planning Commission and all the other boards and committees that they oversee. We really could not do what we do without her and her staff, but also the same to you. These are volunteer community service, acts of service for the community that you do, because you're not compensated for it. Other than the pride you take home after rendering a good service to your community. So we definitely do appreciate that. And for folks who may be watching who want to get more involved, we have opportunities on this board as well as other boards, committees, and commissions throughout the city. But just to reinforce a couple of things that Naya said as well, we intend to be very intentional this year about pursuing code rewrites that will bear fruit, I think, in going forward and in future years. The particular challenge, I think, with serving on a BZA is that you have to weigh that tension between what you wish the code said and what the code actually says.
All the time.
We're about to start a process of reimagining what the code actually says. So there will be opportunities to continue to revisit some of these issues, whether they're corner lots or front yard fences and other things.
I think that's a big one there.
Sure, to try to again, take another look at that and again, ask these questions about what really is in alignment with the community's vision, and that input will come across a lot of different sources between, hopefully, we're going to get a third party to help us through that comprehensive code rewrite. Planning Commission will be involved, so there will be opportunities for you all to continue to be involved in that conversation as well. But again, it is a service. We appreciate your time and obviously all the work that the staff does as well.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Okay,
That's all I have.
wonderful. All right. Any other matters by the board?
No?
No,
Next meeting is February 27th, I think. That's the next scheduled one?
Yes, and I have not received any applications at that time, so I will let you know if that's still on the calendar or not.
Okay. Okay. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
move to adjourn.
Second.
Yes.
We're adjourned. Thank you.